Welcome to the
That's Movies Brother podcast. We're back for another episode, guys, and as you can see, things are looking a little different, which means you can see things. No, I'm kidding. We started recording a couple different episodes, but there's also some, two random people between us. So this is our first episode that we have with guests on since we've been filming, which is
actually
exciting.
Yeah.
So without further ado, we have Mr. Fitness himself.
And by extension, Mrs. Fitness.
Mrs. Fitness, yes. Because I assume Matt Lane Fitness is just the full name here. Reached out to these guys a little bit ago. I was actually on their podcast, the Better Than Yesterday Everyday podcast, which we have some merch over here for, which you guys should definitely check out. Yeah,
I didn't realize you were wearing the shirt right now, babe.
That's what I was pointing at.
A shameless plug there.
Early plug. Let's keep it going.
And I reached out to them. I was able to be on their podcast, and these guys are awesome because legit less than a week, we traveled across states and are now doing our podcast with them. Yep. And a couple other stuff that you guys will have to stay tuned for.
Stealing their setup. This is ours now.
No, we're glad to have you. It's a lot of fun. We truly enjoyed the podcast that you were on. So now that you're both here in person, pretty trippy. So I'm glad y'all made the trip.
Yeah, so
screw COVID. It's fine. Let's just, it's fine.
I was actually kind of worried about that when we made this trip because I know you guys are both kind of in the medical field and stuff like that. I shouldn't say kind of, fully in it.
Which, by the way, I was going to say this on your podcast, but regardless, podcast or not, appreciate what you guys are doing out there.
Thanks.
I bet it's not super fun during all this times, but
especially in Florida. I mean,
it's been interesting, and at the time of this recording, we're actually sort of peaking right now. It's starting to go back up, and I actually worked at COVID respiratory clinic, and there's a lot of control, but at the same time, a lot of things we don't know. Mm-hmm. So social distancing is the best thing to do.
As we sit close together at our podcast studio.
But everything is content.
Which I have not been doing a good job of personally. From the podcast escapades.
Well, and in all respect, some of the country is it's fine, resume, and then the rest of the country is locked down. So it's kind of confusing, to be honest with you.
It's so weird. Where we're in Georgia, it's just no one cares. It's already I went to the doctor and saw my doctor and no masks, no one anywhere.
Wow,
didn't even acknowledge it.
Okay, interesting.
So it's different.
Well, quickly before we get into riffing it a little bit here and then jumping into the movie, the movies, because we got quite a bit to talk about today. I did give a soft introduction, but yes, we appreciate that you guys are here, but a little bit about kind of what you guys do to plug here, and we'll let you plug at the end as well. But you have a fitness brand, Matt Lane Fitness. And you explore a lot of different things, especially on your podcast. You explore more of the mental side of things and the behavioral changes and stuff, which I think is super, super important. It's a little bit of introduction. You have a YouTube channel, and you've talked a little bit about movies through other channels as well. So I know that you have a very interesting perspective on a lot of movies, which is why I was very intrigued to get you guys on.
Yeah.
Not only because we have a connection with some fitness stuff, but some of your opinions I wholeheartedly agree with, and some I do not. So and I love that. That's why I like getting people on this podcast. Because if you just go, that's cool. Yeah, I agree. It was a pretty cool thing.
Well, and cool. Just because your audience, as well they shouldn't, they don't really give a shit about Jenna and I right now, and as well they shouldn't. By the way, can we cuss? I didn't know if we even talked about that.
Okay, good. Bro.
All right, good. Right. So for anybody that doesn't know who we are, just to.
Yeah, I was going to say, please, and then I give you a soft introduction, but please tell a little about what you guys do yourself.
Well, we're not professional at this, so we don't know.
So a little while back, I tied up with a good friend of mine now, that local YouTuber. His channel has done really well, and there has been a bit of that from us reacting to movies, which is weird. And the first one was Star Wars. I had never seen Star Wars all the way through. A lot of pop culture I missed. So that's why we're kind of actually valid to be here. We have something to say on this show. You're not just here for no reason, but
that's literally the polar opposite of me. Star Wars was the first movie I've ever
really
seen. As a kid, I still have the VHS of the originals, before the George Lucas edits on all the other ones that he did in the early and late 90s and stuff like that. That's my thing.
Well, and let me just sort of for the audience, I don't like Star Wars. Now let's begin.
That's a big pill to swallow. It's okay to say you don't like most of Star Wars because most of it's garbage.
Here's what's really funny. I love Marvel stuff and he loves Star Wars stuff, but we both love both of them. But if you had to pick which one you like more, like
Marvel.
I am more the Marvel and he is more the Star Wars. But we both love them both.
Okay.
But it's funny because I was just talking to this. I give him crap for it all the time. Is the fact that he only likes. He thinks like 75% of all Star Wars stuff is bad.
It's bad, yeah.
Only 75.
No, 75%
No.
is bad. So only 25 is good.
Yeah.
No,
I think that's common for Star Wars fans, isn't it?
What I'm asking is it only 75% that you think is bad?
Yeah.
Dang, dude, he's coming hard at you.
That's low from my opinion. I really did. I gave it a fair chance. Again, my good shout out to Holden Hardman because that's where that video lays, and from his channel, like he's done really well, and we've dug into this, like we've gone farther into this, and right now we're a little over halfway through Marvel. I had never seen Marvel. I had never seen Harry Potter. I had never seen Lord of the Rings. Like all of these things that most people are like, who in the hell is this asshole? Why has he not seen this? I just hadn't seen it. And a lot of it, the same goes with Jenna. She hadn't seen it. So it's been a really interesting journey to get to know all this and to really understand a piece of culture. Because you know what? The ADD is strong in all of us. The ADD is strong in all of us. But like in the beginning, we were going to say like who the hell we are. We're both registered nurses and we run a podcast called the Better Than Yesterday Everyday Podcast. And with our podcast, we focus on implementing behavior change through your long-term wellness and happiness. Now, having said that,
I didn't have that whole line memorized, so I'm sorry.
Well, I say it every week.
I don't either, so it's okay.
I say it every week. But I say all that to say that because of these movies, I have really been able to learn culture.
Yeah.
Whether
you like them or not.
Absolutely. And you and I, we related through the fitness realm or through the American Ninja Warrior realm, but it's actually the movie thing tells me so much more about you. It tells me so much more about you. The audience that Holden has, it's just been so interesting to learn about people.
Yep, and that's why I like this podcast is because people like movies for different reasons. And our podcast doesn't just talk about, we like to talk about the objective and subjective. So why it might be good, like properly made as a movie, as an art form, whether it is good or bad objectively or subjectively, because then again, art can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people.
Sure.
And I think it tells a lot about who you can be as a person. So that's the deep part of it right there.
Well, and I'll tell you this, what movies have done, like I never made time for movies. It's just how I came up. My parents weren't really into it. My family wasn't into it. I just never made time. And Holden, like that was his life and it still is. But movies have actually helped change my mind in certain areas. They've really taught me a lot of lessons. And we've only been doing this for like 6 months, but believe it or not, I've learned a shitload in 6 months. It's been really interesting. And
I love that we're already getting that deep into it because like we like to be goofy especially at the start of these, and we're lighthearted enough, but me and Nate started this because like I told you, when we used to go watch movies, even now, but we try to save it for the podcast, we would go out of the movie and stand next to our car and talk about it for an hour. Like we have something to say about movies.
An hour's pretty short. I mean, we would get the employees of the theater would be like, guys,
you
gotta go.
No, for real. They would come and be like, you guys can't be in this parking lot anymore. So we believe that we've been doing that for so long and seeing so many different types of movies that we feel like we actually have something to say about them that actually means something.
Okay.
And not only that, we've done research as to what, like, again, I have delved into the acting realm as well as stunts. Like I've been trained in acting, not crazy. I didn't go forever, but I went to a performance school in California. I've taken on classes for a while. So and he's done some stuff on set as well. So like we know more than just, two dudes watch movies.
Right.
In fact, Tyler often says, I know much more than the average Joe. I'm like a lot better and smarter when it comes to movies.
That's what I have to deal with every week.
Got it. Yeah. Well, and again, we said that earlier, like he's pretty and that's about it. And then you're the brain. So it makes total sense.
But yeah, no, I'm excited that because so for what you might not know, you might know by the title, but what we're trying to do here is basically delve into what your favorite movies are, or some of them, what your least favorite movies might be, and why they are your favorite, why they're the least favorite, why you think they are good or bad objectively and subjectively, because that's what we like to do when we have new people on, get a feel for what they like, what they don't like, and hey, things work out, and there's some movie that we're all super stoked for in the future. We're going to have you back on for a specific movie.
Okay.
But I like the free form of really diving into what is a movie to you.
Well, Jenna, you want to start with something? Get you in here?
Yeah. What is your background on, as far as like movies go and stuff, your journey through, well, really quickly too. I'm rambling all over the place here.
I think it's this studio, man, because
this side of the room.
This ADD is strong as hell.
I'm fine. I'm good.
See, but here's the thing: is like I said, our episodes can last up to we've had 2 hour 15-minute episode before.
Yeah,
wow.
Because we just talk about stuff,
yeah.
and that's why we started this. But anyways, I found you guys originally through Holden's channel.
It was a Star Wars video.
I think it was a Star Wars video, as far as I can remember. But then I found out all the fitness stuff that you guys do. And for me, that's why I enjoy being able to work with you guys, because for me, it's like best of both worlds.
Yeah.
It's like I know that we can talk about this deep mental stuff and like behavioral change and what these movies mean on an intellectual level.
Yeah.
But also the fact that we're just talking about the movies and you're interested enough to give them a shot.
Yeah, there's like this dichotomy where people can be like, nah, Captain America sucks because I don't like his shield. And then there's this other realm of like, actually, the meaning has very big historical impact. And like you can go in so many different realms. So why don't we shut the hell up? And what were you going to ask, Jenna? What was it? What were you
I'm not saying anything. No, yeah, I was just going to say he gave a little bit of a brief background of he didn't really grow up around a ton of movies, but he's seen a lot more than people actually think. But being able to see these new ones and what that means to him. For you, how is like what is your background with movies? Like,
so Matt's seen more movies than I have. Honestly, I grew up in a household similar to Matt's. I didn't really watch a lot of movies. I watched a certain like 10 VHSs over and over and over and over and over again, rather than watching movies like normal people do.
I think that's my purgatory. Is what you just described.
And that was my childhood. Like seriously, that's how I was. That's how I was.
Yeah.
Wow, that's how that builds character right there. I guess that explains it all. I got whatever I wanted, so I turned out into this.
Yeah, there's a handful of movies that I can quote like from the first line to the last, and then the rest of the movies I don't know.
Yeah, well, and like, so everybody's been talking about the people that are watching our videos. They're like, they don't believe it. Like they honestly
haven't seen those movies.
They literally don't believe it. They're like, you're lying. There's no way you haven't seen this stuff. But it's just the truth that I really just never made time. So I literally have years, decades to catch up on. And Jenna as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a handful, not all, but enough to where it frustrates some people, including Nate, considering we have a movie podcast. There are a handful of classic movies that I haven't seen that make no sense why I haven't seen it. Because I love movies, and I've seen a lot of movies.
More than a handful.
But there are some classics that I haven't seen. I haven't watched Lord of the Rings.
I mean, where do we
Lord
want to start?
of the Rings.
Yeah.
So I had not watched Lord of the Rings until just recently. On every, we do 2 episodes a week. Our second episode, we do a series. So we go through like classic
trilogies of stuff.
Yeah, stuff like that, where we can dive in more than just what one episode can do. We can dive into the lore of like everything that is that series.
Sure.
And we just did Lord of the Rings, and I just saw that for the first time.
What did you
guys
think
watch
of it?
The Hobbit?
No, we did not. We're probably gonna go back. So, what did you think of Lord of the Rings?
I think that Lord of the Rings was good, and I enjoyed it, but it was not everything that everybody hyped it up to be.
Scale to 1 to 10, 10 being incredible, 1 being garbage.
I gave it a rating.
I think
here's the problem: we gave a 1 out of 10 rating, which we don't do a lot, but I just thought it'd be fun. And I'm gonna say a number. And then all our viewers are going to go back.
I know.
Because they're going to be like, that's not what you said, boy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I gave it a 7.
It was
around
around
a
there.
7 flat. It was very close to a 7 flat.
Got it. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously seen Lord of the
And that
Rings
was just
because I'm a normal person.
That's just because I averaged them out, whereas like the first one was, one of them I liked a lot more than the rest.
Yeah.
And then the other one was pretty good. And then the third one was like, meh.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I looked at it.
Okay.
But I mean, I say but on the positive side. Like right above that kind of like just mediocre. Like I enjoyed it. It was a cool world building. What about you?
No, it was bad.
Oh, okay.
Now, did you watch the regular cuts or did you watch
No,
the
didn't watch the
extended
extended
cuts?
We watched
Now-
all right, now I will tell
That's-
I will tell you this, that so of course we did it for a video. Like we literally don't watch movies now because it's all content. So
I was
into work,
hoping
doesn't
to.
it?
I wanted to, while I was here, watch one of my favorite movies with you guys.
what is it?
Because I want Whiplash, and I know you guys are going to do it.
Yeah, we're gonna do
so
that
I
one.
can't, and
Yeah.
it's driving me insane.
We're gonna do that. But so what we did with Lord of the Rings is we jammed that out. I mean,
In a week, in less than a week.
in less than a week, we watched all 3 of the extended version.
Yeah.
And I think one day we watched 2.
Ooh, God.
So you're talking
easily 7.5.
Yeah, 7.5, 8 hours. So I will say that I was mentally burned. Like we were all like, even Holden. I mean, he loves these movies. He was like, Jesus Christ. but I like the first one. I gave it the full-blown chance. I gave all three of them the full-blown chance, but it just was not my thing. Very, like, the deeper you go into, like, magic and potions and... Which I really think along the lines of Harry Potter when I say that, but Lord of the Rings was similar.
Sure.
It kinda.
Yeah.
You're shaking your head. No, there was walking fucking trees. I mean, it was
Have
very...
you seen Harry Potter?
Yeah.
I've never seen any of the Harry Potters.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's
Really?
one
Yeah,
you've seen.
yeah,
I haven't.
Yeah. So
He hasn't either.
Nope.
That's one thing
y'all
we've
haven't
never
seen. You also haven't seen Harry Potter?
So we
Don't waste your time.
Both had,
It's bad. It's real bad.
you're probably right. But we both had that weird upbringing where it was like, oh, magic? No, you can't watch something with magic in it. But Lord of the Rings is okay.
I don't know.
Now this might be diving a little too personal. Was that like you can't watch your maybe parents?
Yeah,
people
yeah,
that
yeah.
can't watch magic because of religious reasons?
Yeah,
or?
they just like
Really?
thought it was some kind of weird.
And
like,
to be
further
fair on their
into
end
the-
too, like I feel like there was stuff that was because imagine now there's a bunch of stuff that's come out that kids are watching, and I'm like that looks crazy, but I haven't seen it, so like people can make snap judgments about stuff and
Absolutely.
try to do their
Plus,
best. But
yeah,
it's like,
I mean, I know my parents like kind of, and especially their parents were raised throughout like the Satanic Panic and stuff like that,
Okay.
like the 80s
Yeah.
and stuff. So I know, like I remember when I first wanted to play like D&D for the first time.
Yeah.
My parents were like, and this was like when I was like 20, they were like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, of course.
Well, just had no concept
And
of what
so
it was about.
to sort of, I'm not backtracking for your audience. I don't give a damn what your audience thinks, but
Same.
with respect to your audience.
I don't care.
With respect to your audience, that I don't change my opinions based on the backlash that I get.
No, I love that, yeah.
So for Star Wars, I literally had people wishing me death, like
That's
in the comments.
ridiculous.
In the
I
comments,
understand that. Yeah.
in the like in the comments, people are like, "Please kill him!" Like no LOLs or JKs after it. So I say that to say, like, I'll extend an olive branch, and every single movie that we have seen, except Cats, I have always been able to pull some good from
Yeah.
it. I've always been able to pull something for it that I'm like, I learned from that, or that's a good lesson, or whatever. And I'm very much when it comes to movies, if it's a character-driven movie and there is some sort of like bygone gem moment, which
Yeah,
is a very popular term.
Yes.
Explain.
Okay, so in Star Wars, don't let me take over your podcast, okay? Please.
please explain.
I
We
love
know
it.
about this.
Okay, all right,
And I
so-
think it's hilarious. And we were actually going to make a reference to it before you
Good.
did.
Okay,
We
good.
thought it would be funny.
Okay,
but
good.
Guess what? You ruined our bit.
So, all right, in the Star Wars video, because again, that's sort of like the birth of all this movies that we're watching with Holden on his channel. I screw up everybody's name. Qui-Gon Jinn. I called.
I was afraid you were going to say it wrong.
No, I get it.
I was waiting for
I
you
get
to
it now.
mess it up.
Qui-Gon Jimmy.
But what I called him was Bygone Jim. Bygone Jim in the very beginning, and I kept screwing it up just because I didn't know the names. And then like as we would go to series, I just kept screwing names up, and then eventually I was like, whatever. I'm referring to this as a Bygone Jim moment. So if you watch a movie and you get the feels, or it gives you something of like a lesson or whatever, I eat that shit up. Like I don't care if it's Hallmark or what the hell ever. Like
Qui-Gon Jinn was like the first person that gave you that like deep, insightful line.
Think Yoda. When you think Yoda and when he's
Yeah.
dropping knowledge bombs, I call that a Bygone Jim moment.
Yep.
So any Bygone Jim moment in a movie, I can at least be there for that.
Okay, I get that. You're so very message heavy on
Yeah.
movies. That's interesting. I am so far from
Really?
messages in movies always come off preachy to me, and so I'm instantly out.
He has. That's why I think we're good at this podcast.
I think that's great. I think that's awesome because I have a friend.
Because we have such this like different. There's a lot of things we agree on, but there's a lot of things that like we're able to kind of pull each other a little bit in these directions, which makes it more interesting. Sorry, I cut you off.
No. It's. I think that's awesome that you're like that because I have a friend that was like, "Would you shut the fuck up? Just would you just watch Star Wars for the lightsabers, for the beep boop, beep beep, just for that? Just watch it for that and enjoy it for that and how it was groundbreaking and all that." For me, like the extended fight scenes and how long they go on, like I don't appreciate the visual aspects of it. It's spectacular. It's impressive, but it's not what I sit down and be like, I'm going to watch all this. Like John Wick, that's another series I'd never seen. those fight scenes made me want to jump out of a window because of how long and drawn out they were.
I don't think you know how you're hurting me right now.
I know that probably means so much. And shout out to Keanu Reeves, that mad respect to him. The amount of talent,
an art form,
skill behind that, I cannot imagine. So much respect.
He had to find a role where he didn't talk, and it was perfect for him.
but I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me.
So I'm a weird almost in between because I think that a movie we talked about Ready Player One and Aquaman and the importance of the characters. And again, I'm not going to spoil these movies because I know you're going to watch them.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to. But when we delve into movies, we talk a lot, and I talk a lot about characters and how they're portrayed and how the acting is, because if I'm not drawn in and the character is not believable, at least within the given universe. So in Star Wars, we know what that given universe is. So then the character has to follow those rules, and their logic has to go with that universe, and then they have to sell me on their character. That is very important. If you're the flashy stuff and the fights and all that don't mean anything if you don't have that. But if you have that on top of it, it adds so much. So I think that a movie like John Wick, and I've only seen the first one, I'm excited to see the rest, tells the story in such a different way and is able to tell it through action, and his character development has enough outside of the action that the action is able to tell his character development in a way that a lot of other movies couldn't do. That makes sense?
It does, and I agree with you. I've seen that happen. I did not see that in John Wick. It was just so drawn out. And I will tell you that the very first movie, when they killed the dog, I was immediately like, "You motherfuckers!" I don't do well with that. And
yeah, you literally got up and walked out.
I was so pissed because I knew all of my friends are sitting around. They know that I don't do well with that, and I was like, I know there's a scene where a dog gets killed because I think I saw that in a trailer or something like that. And I was like,
we sat down to watch it one time, and you got up and
I left.
Like within the first 5 minutes of the movie, you're like, I'm out.
So I kept telling everybody, I was like, I don't want to see it. Let me know when it's coming. I'll cover my ears and my eyes. But they were just like, oh, that's fine. And that shit came up, and I was like,
It's so interesting because it's almost like you're trying to find value in the fact that you're watching
1,000%.
which is so weird to me because I'm getting away from anything valuable. Like I want to I want to completely shut my brain off, but I want to be just kind of enter the world and just forget that I'm sitting in a room or any of that kind of stuff. I wanted to completely melt away while you're looking for what can I learn from this, which is admirable. But I'm like,
but that's why I like both, because I go to a movie because I love, and that's why I like creating stories and stuff like that and wanting to be in movies and be a part of making movies, because I like the idea of creating this story from nothing. And I want to be a part of something that can help take people away from whatever they're dealing with and have this escapism. For me, when I go into a theater, it's one of my favorite things because, like you said, I can forget about everything else. But to forget about everything else, I have to have something that's going to make me feel. Yeah. And that is going to draw me in. And if you do things that just don't make sense, and I just go, I'm sitting here watching a dumb movie. Yeah. Then what's the point?
Well, and so you could not have put that more perfectly. It was so good because I'll give you something else. When Holden said, because this was just another video. Holden and I, we put out videos every single week, and we have been as of right now, a little over 3 years. Okay. And it's just video. It was just the next video. Whatever, let's watch Star Wars. I'd never done it. And that video happened to take off. We were 10 videos later that this actually did well. And it came back and we've leaned into it. But the reason why I think that I look for value is because before we started doing this and before I opened my mind enough to watch the movies, I thought movies were a waste of time. I thought movies were a waste of time. I did not see the value in them. Right. And I think that I'm still maturing enough to accept. Can you agree with that? Yeah. I think I'm maturing around to the action. And so some of Marvel that we've already seen and stuff that I can release right now is that some of the action I'm getting into. I like it. Yeah, I like it.
Right. So, okay, that's very interesting to hear you say, because you think it's a waste of time, but
I used to.
No, that's totally fine. It's valid that you used to think that way for sure, and that you're growing in that way.
You're just attacking Tyler's desire and existence.
The action's terrible, and movies are garbage. But yeah, go have fun with your career.
But to be honest, I'm really wondering why we spent 5 hours driving here. No, so it's interesting that you say that because I can understand a little bit of why you would think that. But at the same time, you have a podcast that's about like Better Than Yesterday Everyday podcast where you talk about behavioral changes. And, I keep saying mental health because that's kind of another way of how I view it. I know you maybe haven't used that term. And so it's cool the fact that you are implementing that into the way you watch movies. Yeah. You're like getting better at that and having an open mind, which is fantastic. And I love that. But it's just very interesting because I think maybe you're learning this, which is super cool. But for a lot of people, watching these movies is their way to, I'm trying to figure out how to exactly word this, but their way to, like I said, a form of escapism. It is their therapy. Yeah. It is their way to kind of train their mind and give themselves that break in a way of immersing themselves in something where they can escape everything else. Where you look at it as like the complete opposite, which is totally fine, especially for somebody that's like growing up to just be very driven to do this and do this and do this and work for this and work for this and work for this. Your day is filled with trying to be productive. So if you sit down and just stare at something for 2 hours, you're like, oh my goodness, what am I doing?
So Jenna, I think Jenna can elaborate on this too, of sort of quote unquote who I've become in the past 3 years of starting the business and all that. Like, can you expound on that? Because you get to see things that nobody sees.
Yeah, you're very...
Tell us all about Matt behind the scenes is what we're asking. Everything we need to know.
It's a lot of ADD.
It's true.
It sounds like he's never heard of escapism before. Recently. So
it's
and that's why you hated Star Wars so much, is because you couldn't suspend your disbelief.
Yeah.
Like, you only had your reality as a base. You couldn't suspend your own reality and believe someone else's for a couple hours.
Yeah, and like, this is gonna come off as douchey as possible, but it's not the intention.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, like I guess I started working on a business 3 years ago, and are you okay there?
Yep, I'm good.
Are you good?
Nope, we're good.
I started working on a business in 2017, and I've just been so hell-bent and determined to create or go after or spread the message that I'm trying to spread, that has been my focus. Right. And when taking time for escapism, to me, for me, I don't mean it for anybody else, but for me, escapism is a waste of time. However, I do understand the benefit in downtime. So you could call that escapism. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not movies, maybe it's something else.
And leave it to Matt to take something that the rest of the world enjoys and it's their downtime and make it into content, so that you're like actually working to come up with something to say afterwards on film. So,
there's a balance, Too much is bad.
Too much of anything is
absolutely
bad, for sure.
Too little also probably on the bad side.
Yeah,
overworking and exhausting yourself. And it sounds like you have something you want to say, Tyler.
I just accidentally interrupted you about 3 times, so I felt like I go with it. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is, it all depends on how you view movies, and I think that you can learn a lot from movies, and you're learning that, which is super cool. Yeah. And I completely respect, where you're coming from with that. And when she was talking about suspending your disbelief, I know that that's hard for a lot of people. So I want to tap into that a little bit, because for me, I can just suspend my disbelief as far as, like we were saying before with Star Wars. If they set up a universe, everything has to then abide to those rules. And some of the issues that I have with, example, some of the Star Wars movies later, is they then backtrack on all these things that's like, that's not physically possible in your universe. Okay. I'm okay with just like reading a sci-fi book or whatever. It's like, once that's established, I can then move forward in the confines of your universe, but you can't then backtrack, because then you have no consistency and you're like, this makes no sense.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was just to put an example to it. If you're watching a Transformers movie and a Transformer turns into a car, it's like, okay, robots can turn into cars.
Right.
If he starts turning into a person, you're like, hold up. When did that happen? So, it's within the limitations of the world. My personal big thing is that, I've talked about it a lot. It's probably a meme at this point on this podcast, but I hate plot conveniences, contrivance in any way. And it's been a big problem that we've had in a lot of different movies. And Tyler and I kind of disagree to an extent.
To an extent, conveniences as far as to move the plot along in a way that's like, that doesn't make any sense, but I know they had to do it to move along.
Yeah,
but you could have written that a lot better.
And for sure. It comes off lazy. I mean, just quickly to kind of explain that, like, it was a big problem I had with La La Land, is that in like 3 different instances, these 2 people randomly meet in all of LA over years of span. They just randomly run into each other at like perfect cinematic moments to fall in love. It's kind of ridiculous at a point.
The reason that I'm okay with that is because, in some other conveniences, it depends on what it is because if you're going to tell a story about your life, I have some crazy stories of crazy stuff that has happened to me. And those are the ones I remember. Those are the ones I tell. So if you're going to tell a story that is worth telling, which would be a movie, or else no one would watch it if it's not worth telling, you have to know that these kind of stories that you're going to tell are going to be the exciting ones that might happen around a convenience or two. As long as it's a believable convenience. That makes sense?
Yes.
Because conveniences happen in life, or else the word convenience wouldn't exist.
Right. No, there's a limitation. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's okay that, and like Star Wars and Force Awakens, Rey just happens to be on the planet to run into BB-8 and
Is
Finn
it? You
and all that
hated that.
stuff. But it's ridiculous that also the Millennium Falcon just happens to be there at the same time when they need it, and then they also happen to run into Han Solo, and then they also
Okay,
that's
they
where
happening
you
to
get-
run into Han Solo. He was tracking down his ship, so it makes
just
sense.
at the same moment they were in space
He's
for like a
always been
second,
happening,
and he
tracking down a ship. It's his ship.
spends all we could do that.
Yeah, this is us.
Well, two things, because I can expound on that. First of all, did we screw up completely the beginning part of your podcast where you talk about the news and all that crap?
Nope.
Oh no, we're skipping that because
Good.
fuck it.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right. Secondly, we watched Superman 1 and 2.
The
I
Christopher
knew
Reeve?
you were going to bring that up.
Of course I was. So
Yes.
Okay.
we had never seen Superman. And it was
Tyler hasn't either.
I haven't seen Not that one. No, I have not.
you call yourself a movies podcast.
This is what
I didn't
deal
tear
with.
you apart on your podcast. But I could have. Should have done my podcast first because you're nicer and then get to know someone. And
So, all right, in Superman.
I'm going to destroy you tonight. I'm going to make you not be able to move the next day. For those of you listening, we're doing a video where I'm going to take him to do some ninja training.
Yes.
I'm going to break you.
Oh, dude, it's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be fun, but I'm gonna do horribly.
Well, I don't think you can talk about Superman then. No spoilers.
For future stuff with
Okay, well, all right. So
For who? With who? For me?
For you.
Oh, do you care? I don't even. You never even plan to watch.
As long as you're not super specific.
Yeah, okay.
that's
I won't
I'm
be
not
super.
worried.
I won't be super specific, but there was some pretty major things towards the end that affected the whole world, and it was very difficult because that one thing was mentioned that can't happen. You can't do that,
Right.
And I got hung up on that, and I'm okay with getting hung up on that.
No, what are you? So you don't see that as an issue for the movie?
That's an
okay with
issue.
it. Oh,
No, he's saying
okay.
he's
That's
okay
an
that
issue.
that's an issue for him.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, that's an issue.
That's good because, like I said, the real reason that you get hung up on plot contrivances and things like that we've mentioned is that it brings you out. You start
Yeah.
questioning. Wait, you're thinking about how that works, opposed to what's happening.
Absolutely, and
that's the issue.
It almost feels disrespectful to the audience. I know that.
yeah.
I know that sounds very elitist and like way high up there, but it does because that's for convenience. It's
Yeah.
for you, the creator, to be. It's easy for me when you're doing this for the audience.
I usually just view it as like lazy writing because that's usually
Okay,
what it
sure,
turns out
sure.
to be
Sure.
is that oh shit I have character A at place B and I need him to be at place C. There's no good way to get
Sure.
there. That happened. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So with that being said, we
But
got
let's find some common ground. You mentioned Cats 2019.
You're starting. You're going to start with Cats 2019.
Yeah. So basically, while we were talking about having these guys on the podcast, we wanted to basically see what some of your favorite movies were, what a couple of like your least favorite movies were. The way I look at movies is there's so many of them, and I like so many of them for different reasons. It's hard to say this is my all-time favorite.
Okay.
I have favorites at the time because I think favorites can change. Yeah, I think that's good. So we kind of talk about what are our favorite movies right now, and not our top favorite, but one of our favorites. So that's why I was asking, what's one of your favorites, one of your least favorites, so we can really dive in as to why that movie to you is, awesome for you, and if it makes an actual good movie or if it's just it connected with you on a personal level.
Sure.
So yeah, and I guess we're gonna get into that now. Which
Yeah, we're gonna start
starting
out with the worst
Cats.
because I think we can all agree it is awful.
I didn't even have to watch it.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's completely nonsensical. Like, I don't know.
What is
if
it?
Cats.
There you go.
Yeah,
If like the play makes any more sense, but there's no common thread throughout the stories. It's just a bunch of random people dancing and singing and
Dressed as cats.
yes, with no buttholes.
Yeah, thankfully, right? I mean, that's what we're
I don't know what's worse.
At this rate, I think it would be better for them to have it because then they'd be leading into the fact. No, I feel you because I feel
I
like
don't know what's worse.
at this
I want to see assholes on screen.
It was distracting.
because if you.
It is kind of weird.
No,
Okay, I
at
had
this
this
rate, if
thought.
you at least have those, then they know that they know what they are, and they're
That's
leaning
true.
to the
That's true.
comedy side of it. There
That's
are
true.
movies. Here's a good example. Have you guys watched any of the Fast and Furious?
Yeah.
I got to Tokyo Drift and tapped out.
Okay.
That's respectable. Thank God you didn't watch all Tokyo Drift because holy shit.
No, I couldn't, dude.
What's the last? Hobbs and Shaw. Those movies were getting ridiculous. And Hobbs and Shaw.
I can't stand that shit. I can't do it.
And Hobbs and Shaw was one of the spin-offs of that. And they knew that they were getting ridiculous
Yeah.
and leaned into it.
That's cool.
And made it part of the comedy.
That's funny.
That's great.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Show
That's
the
great.
buttholes. I don't care. It's bad anyway.
That's great.
But it is kind of distracting because they do, it's this
That almost
Cats
makes me
movie
respect it, to be honest. Go ahead.
is very much shown. They all their movements and because of the musical style, it's like it's a play. And so they're doing the way they dance is how they would if they were people dressed in dance attire, leotards, that kind of stuff. So they're showing parts of the Cats normally you wouldn't want to look at quite often. And I'm thinking to myself, it's kind of weird that they just have nothing. It's just they're just all Ken dolls basically. You know what I mean? Just bare.
No backside or front
Not
side.
that I want to see it, but now I'm thinking about it, and it's just
That should be the least of your worries, and that is the least of the worries of the
Yes.
movie, I'm assuming, too.
The movie itself, so again, this was more content. This is another video that we did with Holden's channel, and this was just the next video. I didn't know it was a musical. I had no idea.
He didn't tell you on purpose.
Surprise.
And I've seen, I don't know, The Sound of Music as a musical. That's it. That's all I've ever seen. Have you seen Sound of Music?
Yes,
Okay.
I've seen.
All right. Okay.
Don't
I
turn me
have
into you over here.
the only parts of Sound of Music I've seen is the bit in Wall-E that is shown, and that's all I
Yeah.
want to see.
Well, and
That's in
again,
the sound of music's in that?
Yeah, he shows it on his little.
Oh.
I don't know what this is, but
I mean, I don't really have much experience with musicals. That's the only one I ever knew. It was childhood. My parents, they liked it, but that was it.
Yeah.
But
Did
other
you
than
like
that,
it?
well, whatever. I mean, it's a classic.
Doesn't mean it has to be good. I don't like it.
It's a classic, and I don't know. I guess I respect it because it's a classic. That's about it. I definitely am not going to sit down and watch it by myself. But
yeah.
so, watching a movie that is about people singing, that's not telling a story, that's not really telling a story, felt very pointless to me, and that's what Cats were.
I'm thinking that Cats is not the worst movie because it doesn't qualify as one. I watched only 23 minutes of it, and then I was just done. I couldn't get any further. I had no idea what was going on. I really was missing half the words they were even saying. It was
true.
I just
We had
didn't
subtitles on, we couldn't
understand,
get it.
and it did that thing. I don't know. Did you guys see the Les Miserables movie that came out like a few years ago? Where I was just bringing that up because they sing. It feels like they sing almost every single line in the movie.
They do.
In Les Miserables. In this, they not quite, but almost.
Anytime that they weren't singing, you felt relief, and I was just like, that's a problem.
Because the music is not good. I don't know if that's the same music they do in the musical, but there were some of them that actually sounded bad. I remember towards the end of when I stopped, Jason Derulo was doing one of the songs, and I hated that song.
Yeah.
It just repeated the same background musical notes over and over again, and it's just. I didn't even know why they were there. Totally nonsense.
We honestly gave it a chance. We really wanted to give it a chance, and it was real tough. It was, full disclosure, part of that bit was Jenna got drunk for it
It's the only way I got through it.
because she had to. Yeah, that was sort of like the shtick behind it. Like Holden was like, "You're probably going to need to drink," and it was a tough one. It was a tough one.
Yeah, I didn't understand the story at all at the end.
Not because you were drunk. Because
It just didn't make any sense. And at the end, I thought it was like a positive ending, and then I'm reading what the story's really about, and the cats kick this cat out, and they sent her to heaven or something. Though, like they killed her.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I had no idea.
I'm just casually sending you to heaven.
So
that
there's-
means I murdered you.
So there's this one part where they're singing Jellicle Cats. They're just singing Jellicle Cats. Wait. Jellicle Cats.
I don't know what that means.
Nobody does. No one knows.
Nobody does. It doesn't mean anything.
You're going to have to edit that. I just blew your eardrums out. Sorry.
I'm gonna keep it because it really reinforces what we believe.
No one knows. The entire time you're just like, what is Jellicle Cats?
Yeah.
I think it's just a little hard to say, so they're just flexing. You know, I mean,
I don't know.
Just keep repeating it over and over again.
Now, really quickly, I'm going to touch on this, and I know that the people that have seen this aren't the biggest fan of this, but La La Land, the reason that I really like La La Land, I see out of the corner of my eye. Stop it.
Jenna's seen it. I have not.
Now, here's my question. If they took out the musical parts, would you like it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I thought it was a good movie.
Interesting.
So here's my real question for you. Do you have, and this is okay if you do, a lot of people feel this way. I feel this way about a lot of things, but do you have a bias against musicals?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, which is totally fine because I don't like going to musicals. Like play musicals, I don't like it. I've been in some, like acting and stuff, and I enjoy them when I'm in them because it's fun to like
It's
act out
different.
and do
That
stuff
makes
completely
sense.
different. But people that are like, yeah, let's go to a musical. I'm like, I don't. But the way, so there are a couple movies that are musicals that I enjoy. The reason that I like La La Land, and I will say there are a couple songs in there, especially like there are a couple songs there that are weaker than the others. But some of those, for me, and I know they don't for you, because when people start singing, sometimes people just tap out automatically. But for me, it expounds on your emotions. It's supposed to build to a point. You shouldn't just jump into song randomly, I think. I think it should build.
Ease
and then
in.
when you see that emotion get to a point where they feel like they can't express it through words, they use a different art form to express it. And not a lot of people like that. And I can respect that for sure. But there's a lot more than just the singing that I like in La La Land. I think I would like that movie just as much if it didn't have those. But I didn't have an issue with them. And I think some are very good. But the relationships in that movie and the chemistry, it sold me. Did not sell Nate as much, but he didn't hate it.
I did not hate it. My biggest issue was the stuff I talked about earlier, which is more plot related. I think part of the reason I don't like, and La La Land is much more contained as far as musical. I mean, there's probably like 4 or 5, maybe 6 musical numbers in the whole movie, and so I mean, most of it is not musical. But one thing that I think I don't like about musicals is that you lose a sense of reality in the scene. So I don't actually know what happened between the two characters when they're doing a musical.
It's true.
So in like the opening of La La Land is very famous. There's the big they're on a highway overpass and everyone stops in their car. They're already stopped. It's bumper to bumper traffic, and they all get out of their car, start singing and dancing all together. What actually happened? It might not even be important to know what actually happened in that scene specifically. It's more important later when it's like two main characters, love interests, are singing to each other to know. But I don't know. Was it just nothing? Was it more? I have no idea.
And you do have to suspend your disbelief for a movie like this a
No,
little more?
it's not suspension of disbelief because I'm in it. I just want to know actually like what happens to the characters.
Do you know what happened?
No, I didn't know what the movie was about. I didn't know it was a musical. So when it opened with that, I was like, what are these people doing? And like they would stop singing and then I would get back into the movie. I mean,
It just drew you out.
There was
they're
no two of my favorite actors. And so every time they started singing and dancing, I'm like, you don't do that. Stop it. That's not why I'm watching.
Who was in it?
Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, great actors.
Yeah, both very good.
Yeah, I mean, I
and
could
even
go
in that movie, they have scenes that show them.
Yeah, and I could go more in depth, but I pretty much gave my reasoning behind why I can see it being a valid point. But I can also respect that some people just don't like that other movies. I can respect that, but
so
move on to some other things here.
We also have to talk about Star Wars.
We're starting with the bad,
I
don't
know, we are. Just because I need to know what it is about it. Now, we've already kind of talked a little bit about that. A lot of it has to do with, maybe it's like overall pointlessness. But is there anything together
And to make this clear,
Yeah.
she let us know that her least favorite movie is Cats.
Yeah.
And now his is he messaged me and said anything Star Wars.
Right.
So first of all, Star Wars, I joke and sort of I joke around about it, and I don't think Star Wars is pointless. I don't. I think that there is some value in Star Wars. Holden, if you see this shit, I'm gonna be really pissed. I think that there is some value in Star Wars. Yes.
He's gonna clip this and put it in his video.
However, when we were mid watching these movies, and what we did was every single week, like every Wednesday, all of our friends would get together and we would watch the first one. Then we did the second one all the way up to 8.
Did you watch in release order or
No.
chronologically?
So, and that has been the biggest comment that we've received.
Chronologically.
We watch it
It's
chronologically.
an interesting way to watch.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. So Holden was like, "All right, basically, it's movies about outer space and lightsabers and all this," and my head was just like, "Oh God!" And so he was like, "So basically, how it happened is the first one came out like years later, and he started explaining that, and I was like, bruh." Like, this is going to be really, really difficult for me to wrap my head around it. This week we're doing 5 and we were doing it. Like, I don't even know what the order is, but I know that it jumps back and forth and left and right. And honestly, I told him, I was like, listen, it's going to take a lot for me to really focus and grasp this. So seeing it, like, start to finish, like, I really feel like that's going to be the best way. Also, setting the bar with the technology. Well, wait a minute. I take that back because the prequels
Prequels
Prequels were
later.
made in the middle of overall. So I mean, you have started in the 70s. Prequels were made in like the late 90s to early 2000s.
You're saying prequels, sequels.
Uh-huh.
So let's go
So
numbers here.
1, 2,
4, 5,
3, yeah.
4, 5, 6 were made first. And then they went back and they're like, cool, we want to show how they got to that point. They made 1, 2, 3. And then they made the sequels to the originals,
7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9.
Okay.
And the spin-offs like Rogue. I don't know if you've Rogue One.
And
that
yeah, all
kind of
the
stuff.
spin-offs,
Forget if we saw that. I don't think we did.
they
think we
like just
did.
threw in.
Long story short, like I knew that my ADD of being like 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3,
Right.
like I'm not saying it's right, and you know I think if we were to ever do it again, we would address like and it's been asked, it's been like, will you guys redo it and do it in the correct order? And I'm not saying that we won't, but I just don't believe that 9 movies, because we went and saw 9 in theaters. If you haven't hooked me in 9 movies, you're not going to do it. I just don't.
10 actually.
Movie
'cause
should
we
be a
watched
good movie regardless of the
Rogue
order
One.
you watch
Absolutely,
it in.
absolutely.
Especially if you're watching it chronologically, because that is how you should be able to follow it easiest. So that shouldn't. To be fair, to be on your side real quick here. Yeah, if you don't like it, you're not going to like it 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So whoever's saying that, you guys are kind of being ridiculous.
Well, and again, like that's been so heavily commented, and I have empathy for that. But I don't believe that was going to make a difference. But you know, I guess at the end of the day, I pulled a lot of those bygone Jim moments out of there, which was good. But for me and my brain, call me simple, call me whatever you want. When we were jumping from planet to planet, and this new name, and then this new person, and this new plot, and this new character,
Right.
there was so much happening, and I know some of these stories were ungodly basic and I'm a dumbass, but when you're trying to absorb decades of films, you know, a lot of people were able to marinate on these and watch them more than once, because I don't care who you are, you didn't absorb everything the first go round, and I didn't have that. I was watching a piece of history every single week, so it was tough to keep up with what's this and what's that. And sure, maybe the chronological order screwed it up too, but it was just really, really difficult with jumping everywhere, and it was tough. It was tough.
Yeah. I do think that watching it chronologically was a mistake, because you start off with, I mean, really, I think if I were to do that to you, if I said, hey, let's watch Star Wars, and you're like, what's that? I would just say, here's a movie, it was made in 1977, that's it. Just that's all you know. And you just watch that by itself and then see how you like it from there. Because now when you went from the ones that were made in the late 90s to early 2000s, chronologically the beginning, and then you go to the middle, which was made like in our timeline first, you have all these weird expectations. Like when you see Yoda, you're like, wait, he's this weird little frogman in a swamp? He was like the main guy. He was like president of the universe earlier. So, and that wasn't, I'm not a fan of, that's why I say 75% of it is bad, because, well, a lot of reasons, but that core original because everything else is basically just like retcons almost within itself. It's like, well, wouldn't it be fun if instead of, you know, him being a little hermit frog guy, he was actually this, or, you know, Obi-Wan came from here, and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I do think that order hurt it, but you know, individually, as like, So all that kind of stuff seems like more like your personal, like from the subjective side of it, like how you experienced it. It's not your forte. It's not what you
It's
like.
definitely not my cup of tea. Sure.
Yeah, sure. So, but that's why we kind of like to talk about the objective as well. You know, just as a movie, how it's made and how it's presented to you. That's where I'm curious on where you stand on it. Yeah.
So objectively, and I said this in the video that we did. Objectively, I can respect that. Holy crap, they were breaking so much ground. They were doing revolutionary things with these Star Wars movies in that time.
In the technical space, yeah.
For sure. So respect to that. And I think that a real big reason that a lot of people love these is because of the nostalgic piece.
Sure.
I did a follow-up video to all the negative comments, and I talked about, sort of why I didn't like it. And I think a lot of people have this big childhood piece. I watched it with my dad, my family. There's this nostalgic piece. I simply just don't have it. So that connection, that sort of heart that everybody has, I just don't have it. I think I completely skated past the question.
Well, that's something we talked about when it came to sequels and stuff too. Is like, if you like a movie, like there are movies that I like that I know aren't great as far as like actually how a movie is made and the way the story is actually told doesn't make a lot of sense, but I love it because I saw it over and over when I was 10 years old.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's why I kind of liked, and I'm hoping that's kind of why you're liking watching some of these to see, is this good, or is this because all these people are growing up on it and so they think it's amazing?
Sure.
So Lord of the Rings is one of the first big trilogies that I could watch saying, is this just because everybody grew up on it, or is it good? And I think it's good. I don't think it's as hyped up as everybody says, but that's the issue with, I've seen you guys when you do movies, is when people hype it up, that's a huge issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then your expectations are you could even like write the entire movie for yourself if you hear even just a little tidbit here and there, and then you hear the expectation, and you watch it's completely different.
Yeah.
So you didn't get to soak in what actually happened because you're comparing it to what you thought was going to happen.
It's true. I think that you're spot on with that. And what we have done is my best attempt. I have, like, I'll read comments, and I honest to God don't believe what I read in the comments. Because
they don't believe you. So.
Do you seriously? Yeah, right. Like, I don't believe what I read in the comments. I honestly don't. Like, I look at it like whoever is writing that, if they're trying to spoil it or whatever. I honestly look at it like they're lying. I will tell you why. It's very interesting to me that nobody dies in these movies.
They do.
So to an extent, I mean,
did I ever answer your original question?
We're getting there. Okay. So it's kind of an interesting idea that, like, do you need death to make a good story? It helps with heightens the stakes.
It brings gravity,
but at the same time, it doesn't make it the best. If it were, Game of Thrones would be the best piece of media on television because they have the most deaths, or something like Walking Dead as well. And so it's not the be all tell all of film or TV.
But it's not just killing somebody. You have to have a reason to. And also there's a bunch of reasons that you should and then don't. That's the issue. And that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
And I can agree with that to a certain extent. You guys are watching through the MCU.
Yeah.
And I am not going to say anything that's going to basically spoil anything from here on out because those movies are so near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
But those movies are not perfect. I know that there are a lot of movies in there that either I might not like or have issues with. And what is the last movie you guys watched?
That's out, or
what is the last movie you guys have seen? And you're watching them in release order.
Black Panther.
Okay. So at the point of, I'm going to tell you where my mind was at the point of Black Panther. At the point of Black Panther, I was like, I'm ready for some people to die. I was saying I am ready for some people to die.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense because like the world keeps ending and then they keep saving the day and it's very
and it's like at some point
it's like okay
it becomes very formulaic.
Absolutely.
It becomes like okay, you have this hero, he's introduced, then he's got this thing, his powers like get taken away and then he has to come back and like or something along those lines and you rise up, you fight the okay, cool. At some point we need to have some weight to this story. So I totally agree with you there. And that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that all the movies up to Black Panther are bad because they don't have it, but I can say at least at that point I was like, I'm ready for it. You know what I mean? And whatever comes after that is a mystery because obviously we can't talk about it, but that's where I was, my mindset. So I'm just validating that point that if it makes sense to add weight to that story for that to happen, and you just kind of keep avoiding it because like, well, we can make more money if we keep this person around.
Yeah.
Then it becomes an issue.
Let me flip the script on you and go back to Star Wars for a second. What of all the series, of all the movies, of all the whatevers, Star Wars has been the absolute most divisive and respect, but probably some of, not everybody, but some of the most toxic fandom I have ever seen.
I think we could both heavily agree with you on that.
So why? Why is that? Why does Marvel not have that much of like, this guy deserves to die?
So it's interesting because, and a lot of that, I think where that especially came from, I mean, it happened when the prequels, which were the ones that came out, 1, 2, and 3 of the movies, when they came out, there was a lot of toxicity about it. But especially when Disney bought it and made the most recent ones. That's where I think you'll see the most of it. And it's hard to quantify exactly why. I mean, there is some validity to a lot of things they're saying because I am not a fan of the sequels myself. I definitely wouldn't attack any of the actors or actresses on Twitter, which has happened and it's terrible. But
God, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So the thing is that when Star Wars came out and they made the 3 movies. It was kind of done, but for everyone else, all the fans, it wasn't. There are endless amounts of comics, books, all these sorts of outside things that they created and they all fell in love with and cycled within each other. And then Disney comes along and they basically just kind of say, nah, none of that shit counts. We're doing our thing. And then their thing, objectively, I will say, is not very good. And
objectively,
I will say objectively that's not very good.
So not subjectively.
He does not like the new movies.
I don't think I can point to reasons as to why Force Awakens and
again,
Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker are bad.
To clarify to anyone listening, and this is not an insult in your intelligence, but I just want to make sure we're extremely clear.
Yeah.
Objective meaning this is fact.
Yes.
Subjective meaning this is what you say and this is your opinion.
This is my opinion. Yes.
You think it is objective.
There are objective problems. If subscribe to the idea that you can rate art and movies in an objective way.
Okay.
Which if you don't subscribe to, I can't change your mind on that. Pretty much. If you say you can do anything, but we've kind of talked about this and we've kind of
we think there's a valid side to both.
That we've kind of established that there's kind of a rule set loosely that when broken, like when we were talking about plot conveniences and all that kind of different stuff. When those things are broken, it makes it objectively worse.
Okay.
So on that kind of scale, that's what I'm referring to. That's why I think it is that way.
Okay. That extends a little bit of light to me. However, I have not seen that with Marvel.
Can I give you a theory that I have?
Sure.
And I don't know if this is it at all, but my theory is that these 3 different. Okay, so they came out in segments. Like I said, the original came out 4, 5, and 6. Then they came out with 1, 2, 3 many years later. Then many years later it was 7, 8, 9. So my theory is because they all came out at such different times, you have a bunch of different generations that like theirs.
That's a good point.
And you're having generational battles.
That's a good point.
And so
that's very true.
One group grew up on these, and these are the best. The next group grew up on these, so these are the best. The next group grew up on these are the best. And there are different reasons as to why they feel that way, and they're getting that confused with just the idea of we're just trying to expand this story and make a fun, entertaining movie that hopefully objectively they do a good job. But they are so tied to that personal belief that these are the best movies because that's what I grew up on this and this. That when somebody else who grows up on the new ones and think that, so they attack them hard. Whereas Marvel, they're all coming out at the same time. They have a head. Kevin Feige is the guy who basically is the main story. What would you put, like the story leader of this?
He's like the creative director behind the entire.
He makes sure everything can link together in a way that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
So he
does that, and they have been making those consistently for a certain amount of time. There's not a space in them, so if you like one movie, you got to watch the others for it to make sense.
Okay.
So if you either like it or you don't, that's fine. But I feel like there's not as much of a generational divide. That's my theory. I don't know if that's right.
Give me the time frame from Star Wars, the first one, or whatever the first one is, the 9th one, whatever's the first one, all the way up until the last one.
That's a Nate thing.
1977, we have Star Wars A New Hope, which is number 4. 4, 5, and 6 are made 77, 80, 83. Then later on, George Lucas, who's the original creator, goes on to make 1, 2, and 3, which is 1999 through 2005.
Okay.
And then after that, I can't remember the exact year. I want to say it's like 2010, 11.
Okay.
Disney buys from George Lucas Star Wars as the property.
Some big jumps.
Yeah.
So
and then
Marvel.
2015 is when they make the sequel ones.
Okay.
And
Marvel question? You got me. Look at me.
So give me Marvel's time frame.
Marvel is 2008, and every single year they've come up with a movie to now.
That makes sense.
But you'll even start. I think you're right on with the generational gaps.
I think
you'll
you're right.
even start to find people who were fans like from Iron Man to first Avengers, and then they kind of fell off from a lot of the movie scene. Maybe they started working, like they got a little older, started working, got out of the field, and now they're thinking, well, Infinity War is not really like.
Don't say much.
No, I'm not saying anything specific, but like a new movie like Infinity War, Endgame, or something like that. They'll see that and they'll be like, well, it's not as good as
like the first one.
Yeah, I still like Avengers more, the first one.
Right.
Yeah, I think you'll start to see that as well.
By the way, what you smell, that's the dogs.
Okay, so we're gonna take a little fun detour here. Get a little too personal. We're actually going to talk about this, but we just got right into movies, which I love. At the beginning, getting to know each other.
So by the way, we're in our home right now. We're in our home, and our studio is in our home. So this is context for your audience.
Okay, and
we're in our new
there are some dogs below us that made some awesome smells, and Nate would have no idea because this man can't smell.
Not at all.
You don't have a sense of smell?
Nope,
not anymore.
He lost it.
Dude, holy crap, that's really dangerous.
Well, don't tell me that.
I told him he should get it checked out, and he goes, "Nah, whatever."
That's what am I gonna do?
Like that. The first time he went to the doctor was when he hurt his back, and he was like out for a month, and he goes, "Should probably get it checked."
Okay, wait a minute. So the nurses and us, like, well, how the hell did this happen?
So I tell the story. This is gonna sound so bad. I don't think I lost my sense of smell because
you had it, now you don't.
But that's just the last thing I remember smelling was. So when we were in high school,
bro, that's so sad. I feel bad for you right now.
Honestly, it's got its pros and cons.
I was saying right now it's probably not bad, but yeah.
If you had to pick a sense to lose, it'd be smell.
Oh yeah.
Not being able to hear or see or taste. Yeah, smell would go
if
first.
If a gas leak, it's over. Go ahead.
Well, okay. So when we were in high school, like early, probably like 11th grade or something like that. In the back of Tyler's car, he had a Tupperware container of pizza rolls
that I did not finish for lunch, and I forgot they were in my car.
And so
they sat there for a couple of months,
baked in the sun. And so we were, as funny as you do, going around like barely opening the thing and having you
literally
smell
one of the worst things I've smelled.
Dude, y'all are chuckling, and I'm sitting here like thinking we found a medical discovery. All right, go ahead.
Obviously, took a whiff. It was awful. Last thing I remember smelling.
And I remember I love the idea. There's this myth around Nate. I didn't realize
it at first. You keep going and you're, because I don't think I ever really had a very
Matt
strong
looks really
sense
concerned.
of smell.
I'm literally like, who could I like? What doctors do I know that I could contact that could maybe help this guy? Because that is.
I love there's this myth around Nate because you're trying to figure out what his sense of smell is, and all these stories have come up because around the same time we were playing this dumb game where you basically dare each other to do things. We were in the woods, and someone dared him to like take a bite of a wild mushroom, and I was like, "Don't do that!" And he goes, "I lost the bet." He took a bite, took like a couple chews, spit it out.
Sorry,
I'm like, maybe that's.
No, I don't think that had anything to do with it. But it's
but
just
a pizza roll did. Okay,
I said. Clearly, I don't know. It's just one of those.
That's the start of a Marvel movie. That's the start of a Marvel movie.
What's the superpower? He can't smell your dog's farts?
Absolutely. He can go where no man can.
No, what'll end up happening is if I obsess over it, then I'll end up, penniless. I'm in India, at shamans trying to find out,
This is Doctor Strange all over again. But his hands are your sense of smell.
No, his story is much better. Go ahead.
See, that's my mentality. You can see right there is that you just gotta let stuff go. It's just smells, things. Whatever.
I get accused by being a hypochondriac from him, but I'm a normal person.
Totally.
You can see why.
He knows his doctor's name. That's crazy.
Jesus. So you've never like seeked a medical professional to.
I mean, this was like what going 8 years ago. I mean, at least around. I mean, it's hard to pin down. So I mean, if I had a tumor in my brain, I'd be dead by now.
Yeah, I'm joking. Like I was joking when I was like, a gas leak, but like.
But not though, because.
Yeah. I mean, that's so interesting. Like,
it is weird.
Do you have a primary doctor?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I went to a place. I went to an office to get pills for my back.
No, he went to see what was wrong with his back. Yeah. Let me tell you this story a little bit, which I'm sorry for you guys that are hearing it again, but it's funny. So he goes to he falls out of a tree. lands on his back. And we told a story about it on the podcast. The next week, I asked him how his back is. It keeps getting worse. It became a running bit on our show. Then he's like, I went to the doctor. I was like, wow, that's unheard of from you. I was like, what did they say was wrong? He goes, I don't know. They gave me pills. I was like, you didn't ask?
They didn't ask. They said like, hey, what's going on? Why are you here?
If you know how a doctor's office works, you say, this is great. What is this going to do? And what's wrong?
Did they do any scans? See, again, I'm sorry. This is where my brain goes. Did they do any scans?
So I went in. They asked me why I was there. I said, my back hurts. They said, what happened? I said, I fell out of a tree. And they were like, well, yeah, that'll do it. And then they said, okay, here's this and this. And I said, okay, yeah, I guess I'll just take those. And they said, yep. And I left.
Did they give you any paperwork?
No.
Bro, where did you go?
Did you go to the side, like a shack on the side of the road? Did you go to Eminem's feed up the road?
Bro,
they accept insurance, so I mean, I'm assuming that they're at least somewhat legitimate. I do have a running theory because it's a doctor's office, but no one's actually seen the doctor in like years. So
You
I
never
think,
told.
Yeah.
What?
Okay,
So,
listen,
like-
now
worried
I'm
about
not taking everything you're saying seriously. I believe you that you don't have a sense of smell, but come on, bro.
No, for real, like this doctor's office, there's a nurse practitioner who's like sees all the patients.
Sure.
And no one's actually seen the doctor who runs the office in like years that I've been told, because I'm still on my like parents' insurance and stuff like that. So they said like, yeah, no one's actually seen him in forever. They think they're just signing his name on forms and just keeping the practice going for money. But
Wow.
yeah. So you know, doctor schmockter. Yeah.
And I'm a hypochondriac.
See, and I go another way with it. Like, what if you, like, what if you found something here? Like, I'm not saying you're the only person ever to lose his sense of smell.
Yeah, there's a
but
name
like,
for it and stuff. So it's
see, I would just be like intrigued. I would just be like, hey, like, what's going on with me? Like,
it just leads to stress, you know?
Does
Who
it?
needs that, you know? Because
I'd be stressed out if I couldn't smell.
if there was a way for me to get paid from this,
It might be.
No, there's no way.
dude, you call
can't smell-
call Totino's right now and see what happens. No, I mean, that was definitely on
Yeah, I was
you.
about to
That
say
was definitely on you.
I'm pretty sure that's outside of what they
I smelled it. I'm
intend.
fine.
Yeah. I don't think it actually has to do with the.
That's
pizza
strange.
rolls, but yeah.
All right, what a weird tangent.
Yeah,
Wrapping
sorry.
up really quickly so we can move to the bad movies because we're going a little long here, but I'm sorry, we can get to the good movies.
Good movies, yeah.
I will briefly say, because that is one of my least favorite movies, is Star Wars Episode 9. And some of the reasons why I think even objectively you can say, what?
That's Matt's favorite.
Which doesn't make any sense to me. Because you know what? You know what it is? You know why I think that is because it moves so... Well, no, because you don't like things that move
I'll
that
tell you
fast.
why. I'll tell you why. So,
Please do.
all right. Honest, like, I forget what I actually graded all them because we gave a number scale.
Sure.
And in the video...
But you don't like any of them.
No. Yeah,
Your
exactly.
favorite, so, whatever.
So what I'm saying is,
Liked it because it was over.
exactly. Like, I hated this one the least. That type of thing, you know?
But
So-
you liked it because we watched it in the theater with our
episode
friends.
9, we were in the theater. We were immersed. Thank you. We were immersed in the audio. The visuals were obviously incredible. It was a gigantic screen.
Oh, you like visuals now? Okay.
Well, because we didn't even have a sound bar when we were watching Star Wars the originals. So I was much more involved, and it was physically involving. It was around me. It was
I
surrounding.
love movie theaters for that reason.
And so I think that definitely weighed in. However, I think that like the story and all that, like the characters, to me, like I had a little bit of a sense of like maybe togetherness. I knew that Holden hadn't seen it. Our friends hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
This
and it's
was
almost like it's culmination. This is the last one. Everything's wrapping
this
up.
was new. Like the character, and to me, like the characters weren't new, but like it was newer, and it was not the fact that it was new, but I guess I don't know. It just like I think the big thing is I was very
I
immersed.
think
So
you
episode
disliked them all.
9
You were just more immersed in this. You were in a better position.
Oh, I still dislike it, but it was the one I liked the most.
So imagine. let
Misery
me
loves
give you
company.
a quick. If Holden didn't already do this, let me quickly put you in the mind of a fan and why Episode 9 is the worst.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I've been told.
The original trilogy, like Luke's story from in Episode 4 to 6. Luke's story, his father Darth Vader's redemption arc, all of that, even Han Solo and Leia, is completely ruined by Episode 9 by itself because Palpatine, the Emperor, is just alive again, and everything they sacrificed for, and that is undone in this movie just by itself.
Absolutely.
So that right there, I mean, there's a host of problems.
Sure.
Just within all, we could go through the entire movie, but that in and itself is probably its largest issue, and why it's so.
And they put, as a movie, they just put things in there that they thought people would like. They're like, quippy line, this person can say this. Oh, moving on to this next thing. And it was so, they didn't give any time. I like action, but I also like this character development, and you need that balance of both. To have that time to sit in what actually happened. Like, she thought that she killed Chewbacca. Do you remember that part?
Yeah.
And then he's alive, and we weren't even given the chance to grieve over it. And she didn't care. I mean, she was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that this happened." Moving on. I was like, "What?"
And the way they erase it,
slow down. Everything was happening, and then quickly on. This is funny. Oh, we got to go here. Then this. And in the meantime, while all that's happening, not only did they erase the original trilogy, but the next 3 movies where they introduced the new characters, 7, 8, and 9. Had no cohesion whatsoever, and they just kind of destroyed what happened in those past movies because the directors had 2 different visions.
Yep.
That's a whole deep thing of talking about where those are supposed to go.
Oh,
But the director from number 7 basically came back for number 9, and the middle one, a different director came in, basically said, "Oh, I hate everything you set up in here," and destroyed it. And this guy tried to basically recover it and say, "No, 8 is really the one that doesn't make any sense." I'm like, you guys have no idea what you're doing, and it's showing hard. So that's a huge reason of why I hate it.
There's a lot that you can go into.
Should we get in some good movies? I feel like we're
we've bashed a lot. We've bashed a lot. I want to say to all the Star Wars fans, I have empathy. I respect the franchise. I do. But I just don't like it. It's just not my thing.
That's totally fine. I think that's completely good. Well, when you bring it up as saying, like, if you were to say, like, objectively bad, especially those core 3, then I think we'd have more of an issue. But just disliking them in general is totally fine.
I think it's subjective.
Like, people have love for Star Trek, for example, the originals, like, and there's like 9 of those original movies.
Never saw 'em.
I've got no love for that series,
Really?
and I've seen them. I don't care. I just don't care about them all. So I think that's totally fine.
All right, let's hop into some good movies and why we think they're good and what makes a good movie. Really quickly before we do, we're wrapping with the bad. Can you give a quick definition, both of you guys? Because we've done this before. I want a new perspective. What makes a movie bad for you?
Go ahead, babe.
I point at Matt. All right, you first.
Matt's answer is if it has anything to do with Star Wars. I think it's just when I don't care about the character. I think if that's not established right in the beginning, if it doesn't catch my attention in the first 15 minutes, I can't get into the movie, the rest of the movie. And if I don't care about the character, the rest of the movie just doesn't matter.
If I don't care about the character, if I don't care about the story, and I think that is a little bit different. I think you can care about the character but not care about the story, or care about the story and not care about the character. I think that I have to enjoy both. I have to be driven by both. And I will tell you something for me. Something based on a true story, I mean, almost 9 times out of 10, I'm hooked. Seriously. I'm automatically more engaged because it's a true story. I don't know why.
That's a pretty I think I've seen other people who are like that. Yeah. And I do think that because it instantly gives so much credence to the story.
That's true.
And you can just, you almost believe anything at that point. It's almost too powerful of a statement because sometimes they say based on a true story and they make up half of it. Yeah. And then it's oh my God.
Well, and I think that's for me, I guess because I know a true story, for me, it's almost like there's a little less ability of escapism because that's not what I'm after.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's fair. I appreciate that.
Which I think I just want to quickly say, because you had stated that you really like the movie 300. You would say that's a reason why.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of funny because no one quite knows, what happened at 300.
Sure.
In fact, their early estimates of what they would say, because Spartans love them some Spartans, they would say they beat 1 million Persians.
Sure.
So it's kind of like the whole story is a little, I'm sure it happened to some degree, but the whole thing is exaggeration. So,
and quickly wrapping up, your definition is, it seems like, if I can tack on, if you allow me to, is you also don't like fluff.
I can't stand fluff.
Because this is going to branch to the good movies. Action, you are beginning to like more, but I think you're also liking it more because you're understanding the stories more and invest in the story, so they add to it.
Absolutely.
And they need to add to it, for sure. So if you have a bunch of that fight scene that doesn't make sense to you or opens up with this fight scene, okay, don't open with it. Give me these characters and give me a reason why they're doing it.
Yep.
I can appreciate that. And I could really see that when we get into these good movies. We're going to start with, I think, Pursuit of Happiness, because I think that is a very telltale example of that. This is very character driven. There is nothing, there is no fluff. It is, even if you might find yourself, and I can see if some people would, and I'm not saying I did, but if you find yourself bored because there's not action or anything else, like it's just following this guy's life and procedure on the pursuit of happiness, it's all real emotions. And that's what you're
best thing Jaden Smith's ever done.
You know, so, and just one last time touching back on Star Wars. The fact that the Stormtroopers couldn't shoot for shit, to me, felt like fluff.
In the originals, there are some explanations as to why. In the first movie, they are told to miss. I know that sounds a bit crazy, but they're not supposed to kill anybody. Darth Vader lets them get away.
That doesn't help me at all. That just makes it worse.
They didn't state that in the story, so to me that sounds like a retcon to make it sound better.
I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying.
That. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of that, but
we got to get to
some good stuff. Good stuff.
Pursuit of Happiness. Why is this your favorite movie, Matt?
I relate to this movie so much. Not that I came from a traumatic.
I hope you don't relate to this.
No. So yeah, I never,
I'm so sorry.
No, yeah, I never had to live in a bathroom. I have not struggled like that in my life. I have not. To me, watching this character, he's based on a true story.
Right.
The struggle that he had to go through, knowing that he was choosing an option that was infinitely more difficult. It was a path that was not as well paved, not as many people were doing it. He was told by the closest people around him that he shouldn't do it. They left him because of it. He had such a responsibility and weight. He was homeless. He just had so many storms and so many things against him and almost a cloud over his head. But to continue the pursuit, and not only to continue the pursuit, I mean, I think there's a lot of movies that are like, oh, I'm gonna truck through it. But the fact that he was pursuing happiness, I think that happiness is something that our culture misses. Happiness is not what people chase. Money is what people chase. Yeah. And for me, the happiness piece, the freedom piece is what that character, what that person was going after. That is honest to God, in my adult life, probably been it's been the most important lesson I've ever learned in my life.
Okay, because the only chance I'm going to be able to talk about it without spoiling things is I will say that Whiplash is one of my favorite movies, and it's very character driven, so I'm excited to see your reaction. That's all I'm going to say.
Got it.
And then jumping into Pursuit of Happiness here, I cried 2 or 3 times.
Same.
Wow.
And I still do every time I watch it.
Which, I mean, I can be an emotional dude, but it's good. I like when movies make me feel something.
Yep.
And I did like it. It is not one of my favorite movies, but I did like it. And it was just very interesting to see, I guess, the pursuit of happiness and watching this. Because, I mean, we talked on your podcast a bit about, I can relate a little bit. I was not even close to this amount of struggle at all, but sticking to something,
sure,
even if you don't know it's going to work. Because what he was doing wasn't guaranteed that he was going to get a job. Right. It's like, I'm doing this, and even if I go, it's one thing to be homeless for a while, and once you hit this day, you got it. You don't even know if when you get there you can.
Exactly.
And for me, training for Ninja Warrior and all that stuff, I had to wait 7 years.
Precisely.
And even after that was done, I didn't know if I was getting on. I had to send in the video and had less than 1% chance of getting a call back. Mm-hmm. So I can I love those kind of movies that are very character driven as far as their dreams, their purpose, what they want to do. So I definitely did enjoy that. One of the only issues I have with the movie is probably, and I'm not saying that this is, I don't know if this makes it a bad movie or anything it doesn't make it a bad movie, but as far as personal choice is, I can understand going through all of that. But I feel so bad for the kid.
That's my main issue.
I understand having to give up everything for what you want, but he sacrificed being homeless with his child, and that was the only part that I was I felt a little bit of not 100% for the main character. Does that make sense? Because if he wants his child so bad, it's at what point do you sacrifice what you want for your kid? And that's a very personal kind of decision, and I don't know. So it doesn't make it a bad movie, and a lot of the struggles he went with, made me very emotional.
Sure.
At the very end, when he got that job and he was fist pumping, and that emotion you could see on Will Smith's face was acted so well that I'm like, oh, you dead?
Absolutely.
You dead? It was great. But that is probably the only real major issue that I have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have kids, if that's not already obvious. But I totally agree with what you're saying, and I think that's my major issue is that, if it were me, I'd like to think that if I ever had a kid, if I had to make, if I wanted to pursue what I want to pursue, and it would require me to be in anywhere near his position, it's out the window because I got a kid, and that's like. That automatically takes priority. So whatever I have to do to make that kid's life happy, at least until 18, that's everything.
You would leave this podcast for your child?
Nah, fuck them, honestly.
What I will say is that relationship between the child and the father was...
It's good, yeah.
Yeah, and when he's like, you're a good papa, I was like...
Yeah.
It's like it definitely added weight to it, but there was just a couple of those decisions that I was like, so I feel for you, but...
I totally understand what you're both saying about the child. I completely disagree with you.
Interesting.
So, sure, the kid had to struggle, yes. But what his dad was doing was leading by example and giving his child something that not many people would, by way of giving him a lesson of something. Look what my dad did. My dad went the opposite way. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. The kid had to struggle. He lived in a bathroom. I get it. But do you, that character, the main character, that child would not have starved. He
would have made sure.
He would have made sure.
And that's the only piece
puts them in situations that are probably too precarious and overly exposed to danger and things like that. I mean, even the idea of taking my kid to as dirty as a subway bathroom as he is in is too far. You know what I mean? Like, I know that I guess it's a difference of opinion.
It's definitely not like, I don't have kids either. Like, we don't plan on having kids. So who am I to say? And I agree with that part. It's definitely not what you want. Like, it's definitely an absolute low point, without a doubt. To me, though, like, knowing that if I was in those shoes, knowing that my father did that, knowing that he was pursuing that happiness, that would have been the greatest lesson of my life.
And I can give some validity to that because there were even moments where he was like, do you trust me? And he's like, I trust you. And that's like, dang, that almost makes up for everything, because it's like this kid is understanding that he's leading by example for a bit, and like he knows that he can take care of him, and his kid trusts that he can.
Yeah.
And the line where he's like, don't let anybody tell you can't do something. Obviously, that's a very well-known line from that movie.
Yeah.
What do you think of this movie?
I think it's a great movie. I tend to side on Matt's opinion with, he was making the sacrifice. There's no guarantee that if he didn't make the sacrifice, he could find some low-level, low-paying job that would even pay the bills. I think it was a great example and a great foundation to lay as a father.
Totally get I understand why you'd be hung up on that.
Yeah,
it makes total sense.
And I'm not
respect.
I don't know if I'm as far off as Nate is. I'm more to the middle, but even then, it's still like it bothers me a little bit. But I can also understand that he does set this example, and I don't know. It's just it is something that is worth me bringing up because I noticed it.
And that's also this is so damn interesting. Like, that's why movies, like, I respect movies more now, but I think that's also personality driven. Like, I know more about you because I've gotten to know you more. You were on the podcast and all that, but it seems very personality driven. Of course, like, if I was a parent and you were a parent, we would make different decisions, obviously, and that's not right or wrong. It's just, it's a difference of personality, maybe upbringing, and that is so damn interesting to me. That behavior piece,
Yeah, no, I get that a lot. Yeah, I'll say one thing a little off topic about this movie, and I know the whole movie is labeled The Pursuit of Happiness, so showing happiness is kind of a little outside of the point, but man, I think I would have liked it more if I got to see some happy part.
I agree, yeah.
It just goes, a scroll goes at the end of the movie saying, yeah, he was happy later.
Yeah,
I was like, fuck.
I mean, he walked by in a suit at the end, right? I mean, that's good.
Sure, this happened to a real guy, but I had to suffer for 90 minutes plus, so I deserve some happiness.
I get it. Yeah, and it was you're right. It was there was a lot of gravity to that movie. You walk out feeling a certain type of way. And you're right. I mean, that could have improved the movie, sure, if they would have put some happy in the end.
At the same time, I get what they're doing because it's called The Pursuit of Happiness. It's not called The Pursuit and then a little bit of happiness.
Yeah.
So I can't knock it for that, but for me, I was like,
Sure.
I think everybody here knows I subscribe to the fact of do whatever you need to do to achieve your dreams and goals so you don't regret it later.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just the matter of doing it and putting in the work that where people fail to achieve those dreams.
Yeah.
So I can respect that fully. So that's why it's just when other people come into the picture, you know, and it's hard for me. And I'm not a parent, so it's like maybe I'll make a different decision in that.
And you never know. Like, and I guess until you're a parent, you know, we don't really know how we would react, right?
Good thing about this movie and why objectively you might think it's good because we talk subjectively and objectively, but we talk subjectively of why we like this. And we haven't. If this had a lot of bad qualities to it objectively, they would have been brought up by now. So I think objectively it's a good movie because I'm like, but this and this is why I don't like because bad. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I don't want to have to hark
acting
on.
is definitely on point. I mean, this is one of Will Smith's like really like if he was still had to give out reels to get auditions and stuff like that, he should put this at the front. You know what I mean? So I think it's just, I mean, maybe you could put in some stuff about like pacing in the movie, but I'm not going to go into all the nitty gritty of that kind of stuff. So.
It's a very different movie, so I think the pacing fit the style and the storytelling.
Yeah.
All right, and one of your favorite movies. So there's a couple of them that I know of.
There's no way in hell you're gonna know our favorite movie.
Yeah, well, my nostalgically speaking, that's the movie you're speaking of. I think overall my favorite movie is the Shawshank Redemption.
Because you messaged me that it was, what was the other one?
Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken.
Yeah, so you mentioned that one. But I remember, for some reason, we were looking at some content on the way down here. Again, Nate had not had the chance to speak to you before today. And so I was showing some of the stuff. He had already looked at some of the stuff already. But I think it was during one of the lives with Holden that you mentioned Shawshank. And I was like, that's not the movie that he said. So I was like, oh, cool. Maybe we could touch on both of them. That'll be interesting.
I love the one that you mentioned earlier, not Shawshank though, because it's a movie about a girl who gets on a horse that's running and then jumps in water. And that's all I know about it.
Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Amazing.
She lost her sense of smell.
No, she didn't.
I'm
She
kidding,
lost
I'm
her,
kidding, I'm
She
kidding.
lost her sight.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
she did?
Yeah, she
Yeah,
really did.
she went blind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Based on
She's
a true
got to
story?
hear the horse coming?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now we have to watch this movie.
What is this sport? Do you win?
It's illegal.
It's illegal. It's illegal
illegal
now.
now.
Back then, back then it was legal.
Seems really fucking dangerous for the horse and the person and other people. Like,
Yeah, it's illegal now.
but I don't understand how do you do good at it? Just by doing it is good.
it's just a performance. It's not like a.
Okay, so it's not a competition,
Right.
Oh, it's so weird.
I want to watch this movie
Yeah.
now because I'm so intrigued at this thing I've never heard of, high diving with
on a
freaking horse.
Yeah, it's a little. It's obviously it's a little older. When do you think this was?
I have no idea.
No idea.
1991.
There you go.
Dang. All right.
I'm gonna look it up. Y'all go
So
ahead.
because I feel like we'll have more to say, even though, again, other movies I haven't seen, I've never seen Shawshank Redemption. What? And I want to see it.
That makes sense. With
So
Tyler.
bad.
It kind of sucks. Like I haven't really seen Yeah, I'm right. I know. I looked into this movie before.
I thought you just got it. Okay.
I trust him on
As
stuff
much
like
as
that.
I'd
Okay,
love to
got
just
it.
be IMDb Rain Man on
Got
that
it.
kind of
Okay.
shit.
I thought you guessed that, and I was gonna be like, I gotta go.
I let you go with that thought for a little too long. But
But because it's one of your favorite movies, it is very well talked about. I'm very excited to see it. I do not mind if you spoil this for me because I'm going to watch anyways and probably still like it, but I will still do good at having my own opinion on it. So please, I want to know why you think it's good, and I want the people that have seen it to be able to talk about it and kind of give me like a rundown to see what I think.
So there's a couple of reasons why it's my favorite. One, it's an excellent film. Like the redemption piece of it, you love so many characters. You're not just invested in the two main characters, you're invested in all of his friends in the prison too, and him breaking out. But it was also filmed in my hometown. So growing up, like when the movie first came out, it was like so incredible to see my uncle and my great uncle like 15 minutes into the credits, like way down at but to like see their names and like have, driven by and watch them like, revamping this old prison. And, now it's like a Halloween thing to go through the old Shawshank prison.
you don't have to reveal where you're from. I'm just curious. Is it set like? Is it filmed where it's set?
No.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It's so I'm from Ohio, so it's supposed to have been filmed in Maine.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I was just curious about that. Keep going.
Yeah, so it's just, it's a lot of that nostalgia piece.
And it's one of the first
too.
movies you and I ever saw together.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy that you can like it because of that nostalgia piece, but it's not
it's a date movie.
It's
really.
not a movie that people. It's not a movie that people would say is bad. Like, not only do you like it for this nostalgia reason, but it's well regarded as a very good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like one of Stephen King's like.
Well, it came out the same year as Titanic, and so Titanic was, of course, a mammoth of a movie, but it never really won any awards, right?
Right. But it's now, acclaimed as one of the best movies of all time.
Yeah.
Even though it never really won awards when it first came out.
Which, I mean, you can't help but think Titanic shadowed it,
Damn
Yeah.
you, Cameron.
So basically, it's character driven, which is what really drew you in, is what I'm getting from that, because that's kind of your opposite of what you said, what makes a bad movie, and so that I'm assuming is what makes a good movie for you. So it's kind of interesting because you guys have a very similar view on that.
Yeah.
But we both have maybe a very narrow palette.
Yeah.
We don't have a crazy amount of experience with movies. So maybe that will evolve over time. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, as I've said before on the podcast, I'm a big A24 fanboy. So A24 is like a studio. They like produce movies, and they've done a lot of. It's I know it comes off really fucking snooty and whatever.
Snoopy?
Snoopy, yeah. But some of their stuff that they've come out is really good. Like The Lighthouse. I mean,
But some of it's really not uncut gems.
yeah. That's. I mean, there's some stuff
You
that I don't
like uncut gems?
She's seen it.
I like the last 20 minutes of it. The rest of it is absolutely
Where you fucking
terrible.
dies.
The only part about that movie, it's just because the last 20 minutes is entertaining because something fun's actually happening, but it doesn't have anything
I never saw it.
with the story. It's just like
Uncut Gems is an hour and 50 minutes of
Don't forget
raw
Inception.
stress.
I think
Yeah,
it's
we wanna
longer.
touch
It's
on it.
longer than
No,
that.
you
I
don't
don't
have to,
think
whatever you
it's
want.
2 hours, but it feels longer than
It
that.
felt like it was like 4 hours. I paused it
Pacing.
3 times and was like, "Why am I still watching this?"
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, "I gotta
I
watch
think
it
that's
now."
where you say, not a good movie.
Yeah.
But that was made by A24. It doesn't mean just because you have a good
no,
a
but
studio.
they have done a lot of stuff that I really
The
like.
issue that I have is A24 seems to do a lot of experimental stuff. Have you guys seen The Lighthouse?
Yeah, I think we saw it.
It was like it's
Robert
in a
Pattinson, Willem Dafoe. It was
pretty
in
sure
that one.
Nope, I haven't seen it.
Oh, I thought you were
You-
going to say.
I-
I'm pretty sure
Did
I've
you like
seen
it?
It's in that weird format where it's a box. It's black and white. I lost you.
No, wait. I'm thinking of. I got to clarify this now. What is the movie?
Oh, here we go.
Jenna. No, come on.
You're gonna get some generic details.
Jenna. I'm trying
I
to
can help you out here.
Come
so you
on,
guys
what
have
is it?
fun with this.
It's the same. Who was? Why can I not think of this? He was in Titanic. He was in Inception.
Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio.
okay, Leonardo-
You're thinking of oh fuck, Martin Scorsese. It's
Yeah.
yes. It,
How do you like
Shutter
it?
Island.
That's it.
You're
Yeah, I was
thinking
thinking
of
I
Shutter
haven't
Island.
seen Shutter Island.
Shutter Island is very good. They're similar,
Okay.
but similar in concept. The way they're
Got it.
portrayed. Very
Here's
different.
my point. A24 has made some stuff. They're very well known at just trying to do new experimental stuff, and they get praised for that. Where just because you're doing something new and experimental doesn't mean it's good.
Okay.
I can praise that you're
That's
trying
an
something new.
oversimplification.
No.
They
No.
do make experimental
No.
stuff, and some of that is really good.
Yeah,
not
some of it.
everything.
But my point is a lot of Uncut Gems is a good example that you can agree with me on. Is
It's not just good because it's different.
yeah, it's not.
I don't
good.
like the movie Most Violent Year. Didn't like that one. That was them as well. But To Kill a Sacred Killing of I can't remember that name. Killing a Sacred Deer or whatever it's called. I liked a lot. And there's a lot of horror movies that came to theaters. Hereditary
movies.
and
Who's with me? Anybody hate horror movies?
Absolutely.
I'm not crazy about it. There's some that I like. There's
Yeah,
some
but
that I
I
like.
can't.
You probably heard. You might have heard of these trailers were on TV
I'll give you,
and stuff
give you a
like
low
that.
5. Low 5 on that.
Hereditary and Midsummer.
Very soft and supple. He was like,
No, nothing. Damn. Okay. Well,
Random question.
Yeah.
yeah.
How many movies have you seen?
Well, I mean, like
We can't.
literally too
Can you
many.
count?
I mean, like I don't. Yeah, I
You
don't
know?
know.
No, I'm just asking if y'all knew.
Because, like, I mean,
No.
you've at least seen 100.
So what he's talking about there is I did a video covering the 100 movies that I did see and then the top 5.
Yeah.
Context for your audience.
So, I mean, but theaters and stuff like that has always been a big part of Tyler and I's like friendship and our lives outside of that. So, like, we've seen.
and I have seen a lot of movies. I know it's weird because there are a
Yeah.
handful of like classics I haven't seen for some reason. I just haven't seen them. There's no excuse I've wanted to see them. I just
Most of the time
How
they're
many
on Netflix.
how many times have you been to the theater in your life?
I couldn't count.
Yeah, I could
I
tell
can
you.
I can count on 2 hands.
What?
I think
That's
I
crazy.
think I might have been.
But I
8
love
times.
the fact that now you're watching movies and
That's
you
why
went to
you
a
like
theater
episode 9.
and then had an amazing time.
True.
So like I think
True.
we'll go back. I hope.
I don't know. It was amazing. It was better for sure.
Yeah, well, it was episode 9. Obviously. if it was a different movie,
It was pretty good. It was pretty
So
good.
one more thing I want to touch on because we've been going for a while here is one of my favorite movies is Inception, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I mainly want to talk about what you guys are liking and how we can kind of contribute to it because people know if you listen to our podcast what we like, what we don't like. They've got a vibe for us. We have 30 some episodes out. But Inception I bring up because it is one of my favorites, but there is action and crazy visuals, but you really enjoy that movie.
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
Because it does this thing where it delves into the mind and just does this very creative and very well done and very well thought out way of presenting it.
Yep.
Like
So what's the message here?
It's so
in
much.
Inception?
It was his dad and it was his son. Like his greatest treasure was his son.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can.
I guess I can take that.
But are you trying to go with was it a dream or not? Because that's
No,
how
no,
you
no,
go
I
with
was
that.
saying because it seems like you're very message driven in movies. You
Yeah.
love this movie. When I watch that movie, I don't really see a strong message here. Certainly, yeah, to
Oh, I
attachment to. That's not why. And interesting that you'd say this. I'm trying to grasp on.
Well,
that
it was the
'cause it's really
kid. It was
good.
actually the kids that turned around, and you could never see the kids' faces when it was in a dream.
I'm talking about. So I'm not talking about Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm talking about when they were in the mountains, the precipice, like that client. What they were installing that.
Oh, how they
that-
were able to
that dream.
install into his
Yeah,
brain.
how so that concept, I thought it was just like the imagination behind that was incredible.
Oh, how they
Gotcha.
dove into somebody else's
Yes,
brain of not even the main
yes.
character. I like how you look at that.
And then sure, of course, he was doing that for the kids and all that. But here's the thing, that movie was a perfect example of balance of
Yeah.
the visuals and the fights and the,
And
and
why?
the blah blah blahs along with the story.
Why they were doing those things because you knew on the outside the only reason they're fighting people is because in this man's subconscious you're fighting him mentally.
Yeah.
which is like wow.
Oh, and again,
and I know you love. I love that
yeah,
stuff.
I'm so partial to that behavior, behavior change, mental fitness, mental wellness, like that thing. Yeah.
Yep. Well, and that's why I think that's a really good movie on my part because it makes you think, it makes you feel, it has very well developed characters, it has the action, it has a little bit of everything. Not only does it have it, but it does it very well.
It even touched on like psychosis at
Yeah.
certain points, and I was just like, I was very enthralled with that movie.
We had an interesting rewrite for Inception where we were talking about this.
We're
the
talking
other
about
day.
sequels, and like they should not do a sequel for this. Like, but if they did,
Well, no, it was more of to the idea that his wife, Leonardo DiCaprio's wife, ends up killing herself because she thinks she's in a dream. I thought it would have been fun if to prove that she's in a dream, she kills him.
So we find out in the second one, she's
Jesus.
actually really alive, and then throughout the whole second one, he's running from her because she's trying to kill him to
Y'all
then
should
commit
do that.
him.
I think it would have been
Y'all should
worse.
do it.
But I just thought it was a
We'll
funny
do a
idea.
weird skit of it.
Yeah.
Y'all should do it. You dress up like her.
Okay, I love how that was just instantly decided. You're the woman.
Cool. I think we could probably wrap it up. We talked about. I like getting the definition for you of what is makes a bad movie. So now for you guys, what is it that makes a good movie for you? And it's probably just going to be the opposite, is what it kind of seems. For you, Jenna, it seems like you need something that's very strongly involved with those characters and character based to really get you hooked.
Yeah. And some sort of, and I think this is a girl thing, some sort of either romantic or friendship bond between the two characters. Like in Shawshank, obviously there's no romance, but that bond of the two friends.
pretty close. No.
But like they really did. They loved each other. They were best friends. They were brothers.
Yeah.
And I think that makes like that relationship piece of like caring about the characters and then caring about their relationships with the other characters.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. If I wanted to make it as simple as possible, I would just say something that really makes me feel. Like if you can make the hair on my arm stand up, you got a good chance of me loving it.
Cool. All right, pretty solid episode. Went a little longer than I thought it was going to go,
Yes,
but
but
it was
that's
entertaining. It was fun.
Why did you not think we could make it this long? Because
I didn't
our
know. I
show
didn't
is
know.
usually shorter.
Well, so I know I knew that your show was shorter, and so when we have new people on, we like to try to tailor a little bit to them because I don't want you guys to be bored at any point.
No,
You know
this
what
is
I mean?
fun. This is a lot of fun.
Like I don't want you to feel like we're dragging out. So we had a goal set, and if it went past, it went past. That's how we looked at it.
Wait, how long did y'all want to go?
You want to keep? We could make it a marathon. Just go as long as physically possible.
I really gotta piss. Guys.
All right, cool. So we appreciate you guys being on. I want to give you a second to
Plugs.
plug all the stuff that you guys are doing because we want to definitely support you guys because we love what you guys are doing and that you guys are able to cross over what you guys are doing with what we're doing because it makes sense. Like you said, you can learn a lot about people from what they like in a movie.
Yeah.
And I want to plug your house. You guys just let anybody in. It's nice here, so I just guys, come on over.
The address is not.
Jenna, you want to do that? Do that part? So it's starting to become a running bit that Jenna's getting more involved with the marketing piece behind it.
He just enjoys hearing me struggle, try to say.
Take it away.
Great, thanks. You can find us on YouTube. Our main channel is Matt Lane Fitness, and our podcast is the BTYE podcast. It stands for the Better Than Yesterday Everyday podcast. And you can find Matt on just about every social media platform under Matt Lane Fitness.
Yep.
And I'm assuming you're selling your merch online.
Yeah, it's out there. It's on MattLaneFitness.com.
Buy one of those shirts. They're really cool looking.
Right.
And also, please go support them on Patreon. I know they probably didn't want to say it, but I'm going to say it because they got an awesome setup. They got a lot of cool stuff coming, and I know that it would help them out. So
thanks, man.
Why not?
Thank you.
Throw a little bit of love their way for sure.
Appreciate it. Without a doubt.
Woo.
All right, now I feel like we should plug ourselves. I almost
Absolutely.
forgot.
Yes.
We always plug. Go follow us.
Tyler C. Gillette on Instagram. That's Movies Brother on Instagram. I don't do social media. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcast. Fuck it. That's it, right?
Yeah, Nate's a ghost. If you can find him, I'll give you $1,000. If you can find him anywhere on any sort of
Really?
social media.
Nothing.
I found him once. He
Gotta
tried
fix-
to be. He tried
You
to be.
found
elusive.
me once?
Yeah, I
gotta-
never
you
told
gotta
you
fix
that.
that
find
shit.
each other like every
You know
couple
what?
days.
I'm going to break this to you right now because
Oh, no.
there was at one point that you said you didn't have an Instagram, and you did, and I found you. You didn't have a post. You didn't have any pictures. You didn't follow anybody. You just did it to look at people, to spy on people. So that might still exist.
I deny this.
And I was going to message you from I was going to make a whole new account and call you out, and it's going to be hilarious.
Is it
But
my-
I think it's
what-
past now because I don't remember what it's called.
Okay.
But anyways,
Cool.
So if someone can find him, I'll give you money.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Really, really appreciate y'all having us on.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And we appreciate you guys
fun.
listening. Hearing from other people is always great because, like, no matter what you get from a movie, it's just awesome to dive into somebody's like mental state when they sit down and watch a movie, what they get out of it. Diving in what actually makes a good movie, bad, and some are great.
Yeah.
Some are terrible. But guess what?
That's Movies Brother.
All
Fuck
right, cool.
yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week.
Woo. Okay. Oh,